welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm your host, Ian Carlos Crawford, and joining me for this special episode as we make our way back to Buffy Season 7, I have two wonderful co-hosts with me. I have best-selling author and Scooby,
Kiersten White.
And I have my co-host of My Bloody Judy,
Zachary, Patton, Garcia.
And Kiersten, do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, we are joined by the intersection of horror and Christmas, filmmaker and co-host of Midnight Mass,
Michael Varrati.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
I'm so glad to have the three of you here because we're here to talk about one of my favorite episode of season 7, which is Conversations with Dead People. And I think the three of you also are very into horror. And so I think this is, definitely the last episode that leans into horror, but it's it leans into those tropes, right? Like, I think I can remember watching the dawn scenes and being like a little scared, right? And like, that didn't happen often on Buffy.
Right. And especially in the dawn scenes, and we can talk about it as we dig into the episode, there are so many direct allusions, not just to horror cinema, but to horror stories. Mm-hmm. I think of all of the conversations with dead people that happen in this episode, the dawn segments literally lean into direct reference and allusion of like certain moments in horror cinema and classic folklore. So I think that that's really great because the show kind of after a certain point decided to kind of do its own thing. So to return it back to an homage to horror was really kind of cool to see.
It's just the atypical Buffy episodes are the best, right? They are just unbeaten. And this one is just pure poetry from start to finish.
Yeah. I put in my notes, I looked this up and like they're actually a different writer wrote each plot thread. And I think that really is to the benefit of the episode itself. Mm-hmm. You know, like Jana Spencer wrote the Dawn scenes, which I think the Dawn and then the Willow and Cassie scenes are like the two strongest. Marty Noxon wrote the Willow and Cassie stuff. And I think that it really works. I don't know. Kiersten, Michael, you both are very prolific writers. Like, I'm feeling like that was a benefit to the episode, but I don't know, like, what do you think?
I think so. I think one of the problems that you see most often in television and film and things that actually get made is it's the too many cooks problem, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you get that combination of writers where it's synergistic, right? Where their combination creates something better than what they could have done together. But sometimes you get the problem of too many people have too much input and it gets kind of muddled along the way. And I like that we have these interconnected stories that are all so sharp and all exactly what they should be. And I do think it's because you had 4 different writers who were just at the top of their games and just having fun with it. Like, this is my only responsibility for this episode, so I'm gonna just kill it, and they all did.
Yeah, and Kiersten raises a good point, too, that there are too many cooks often in a writer's room that can muddy a pot, but sometimes what happens is they all adopt the voice of the showrunner, too, and they don't really get a chance to breathe. And this is an episode where I think the writers actually breathe, and it's to the betterment of the storytelling because there's individual voices in each of these stories that wouldn't necessarily work in a regular episode of television because you have to keep a cohesiveness in an episode with just an A or a B plot. But this has 4 or 5 plots running concurrently that all have sort of different tones. And they each kind of bring what they do best to those segments, and it works. And it also shows what a strong writer's room Buffy had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is that these writers were also like all really good writers. And so having them work on separate elements of the plot. And I think also it probably helps that like you said, they needed to like intertwine, but also they didn't 100% interact with, like, they didn't really interact. It was just like they had to have the same flow of like, ooh, Dawn hears a spooky, but like, what is that? Oh, she starts seeing spook. And like, we're building up to, you know, Cassie telling Willow to kill herself and Joyce's appearance and Buffy finding out that Spike sired this vampire and that he is killing again and Andrew killing Jonathan. Like the pacing had to be the same, but the stories don't actually have to interact. So it's almost like these could be like 4 short stories about Sunnydale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter how many times I watch Buffy. Like, I haven't watched any episodes in quite a while. And as I'm watching this, I'm just making notes. I'm like, oh, this is so sharp. This writing is so good. This episode is so funny. And then I'm like, I write that every time I watch an episode. Like, I do think consistently this show just has phenomenal writing. And this episode is such a showcase for that.
Yeah. And even the way the episode is shot, like it feels like, even with the moments of action that we do have throughout, like sprinkled throughout, it feels a lot quieter. It feels a lot slower, even though there's all this stuff going on. So whenever I think about an episode or a season or something like that, I always have an image that sticks out of my head. So which image or shot from this episode sticks out to each of y'all? I'm very curious about that. I
feel like this is going to be lame, but there's 2. For me, it's Joyce just like bright and shining. Like
that's mine.
Yeah, like Joyce lit to be like almost angelic, but knowing that it's the opposite. It's like this is an evil person wearing Joyce's face.
With that window in the back, right?
Yeah. Which is the cover to this episode. But also I would say the image of Willow sitting at her table and looking up with tears in her eyes. Yeah. Like that is like a very, Allison Hannigan. I mean, I have my notes say often during the Willow scenes is Jesus Christ, Allison Hannigan and Azora Skye like bring their A+ game to this episode. And it's wild because if I think about it too much, I'm like, having Cassie there is dumb because Willow never even met her. But that actor just like delivers. And so I'm not mad that it's, you know what I mean? Like in theory, I'm like, I wish it was someone else, but like in practice, I'm like, no, this works. And she is so good at like switching. Like when she switches from, oh, I'm this nice teen girl who like wrote poetry. And as she starts to get more and more sinister, she really nails it, I think. And so, I always think of Willow like sitting there. And Allison Hannigan has such a good cry face that her sitting there, like looking up with tears and she's like looking so sad. Those are my 2 images from this. And that was my 10-minute answer to Zach's question. I'm sorry, Kiersten or Michael.
I mean, I also was going to do Willow looking up and crying. But she's just like so luminously beautiful too. But I won't because you did. I think my 2 images are the scene where Dawn is at like the little coffee table and there's the flash of Joyce dead on the couch behind her. And it's quick. And then, Dawn turns around and it's not there anymore, but that's just like, it was so effective and so re-traumatizing. And then, I really just love this scene where after Buffy criticizes the guy for Psych 101ing her, and then it cuts to her full on laying out on the the sarcophagus, the plinth. I don't know what those are called. I shouldn't write horror. But like full on laying out, hands on her stomach, like in the traditional like therapist and patient pose. I just thought that was so funny and so well done.
Well, I also really love the comedy of the Buffy therapy scene. That's something every time I see this episode, I zero in on, which I know that, I being a horror person, people are surprised that I go for a more mundane image, but it's great. However, I also agree that the ultimate imagery of this episode is with Willow, because when I think of conversations with dead people, I think of that library. But for me, the actual imagery of it happens earlier when Willow is alone at the table and you see Cassie walking through the stacks before she rounds the corner, because that is just really one great filmmaking, because someone's there. There's like a buildup of reveal, but it's also ominous, even though Cassie then comes out and is pleasant. And we don't fully know yet, but it shows as the season progresses how the first is always on the periphery, right? And I love that idea. And even though each of these stories are isolated, I think Willow in the Library stands out to me the most because in all the other stories, the characters move around. But Willow's is truly stationary. It's a bottle episode within kind of a bottle episode. And I think that really speaks to the power of the storytelling because, as Ian pointed out, it's all between those two. They have to sell the whole thing, Yeah,
you're right. That's funny. I didn't think of, like, Willow literally is sitting down until she stands up at the very end. Otherwise, she's stationary the entire episode.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think, like, no, but it's really compelling, but it is, right?
Yeah.
So this episode, I mean, you mentioned this, Zach. This episode even is shot differently, and I love the opening. I think the opening's that Angie Hart song, it's so good. It has like the timestamp, it has a title card.
Yeah.
We don't ever get that, but like for some reason, it's so good, right?
Doesn't it feel like a play and everybody's introductions into a play?
Yes.
Like when Dawn walked through the front door, I just thought this is a play that we're about to see, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's because it's almost like all these characters are moving into like their like parts on the stage or wherever. Yeah. Like
I did have one dead brain moment when it gave the timestamp, and I'm like, oh, is this a flashback? All right. Right. Yeah.
Dead brain. That's good. I'm going to start using that, Kiersten. Yeah. And and we even see like the band setting up, which like isn't something that we normally, and it's all, I put this in my notes and I mean this in the best way. It's like completely unnecessary and like not something they've done before, but I still fucking love it. Like it still works. I don't know.
Yeah. Cause it goes along with the theme of we're setting up all the pieces for this episode.
Yeah. And almost like, and this episode, and while I don't know that it follows through, this episode's also setting up all the pieces like for the season, right? Like it's like we meet the first officially. We like see what Dawn is going to go through. We like the subtext of Buffy's superiority complex. That's also an inferiority complex is just text. They say it out loud, and that will be the through line for Buffy for this season.
It's still wild to me though that this is 7 episodes in, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The pacing on this season is so odd. Like I think back on was it season 5 that was Buffy versus Dracula?
Yeah.
So that is it's a standalone episode, but it's a standalone episode that perfectly introduces every single element of the season that's coming, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's part of my issue with season 7. I can't believe this is happening 7 episodes in, and that we still haven't even introduced the fact that there are other potentials coming in, right? Which is like the crux of season 7, and we haven't even gotten there yet. Like I think that's my biggest issue with season 7. It's just like it didn't.
It's drawn out.
It didn't set up what it was going to do, and so then when it does finally get to it, it feels like what? Anyway, I don't know. Like I mean, we'll move on.
Well, you saying that out loud that it's episode 7 reminded me. Oh, in all my my pitch letters to get people like guests on, I've been saying now we're halfway through season 7, but like we're not.
Well, what it almost is like it just feels, TV back then was like so standardized, whereas like like it or hate it, the last season of Game of Thrones, you had some episodes that were like an hour and a half and some that were like 40 minutes, and they could have done that here, fewer episodes, more into the plot, and given more time to these more important episodes. And it would have just, I don't know, it felt a lot tighter.
Oh yeah, I could watch like an hour and a half cut of this episode, like for sure.
Yeah. I do love that that streamers have really opened up format.
Absolutely.
So you're not locked into the 21-minute or 44-minute episode, 22-episode season. Because that format works well for some things, but it doesn't serve everything. And it is interesting to think how Buffy would be structured if it was airing now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to move us along as a co-host. I just so that we have that whole introduction, and then Buffy, her sort of like weary, resigned, here we go. Like it is just such a killer opening, such a great introduction to the episode, like so good. And then next, I think the next scene we see I have listed the boys are back.
Yes. I often forget that they also are, like I always think of it as like Willow, Buffy, Dawn, and I forget that.
Yeah, my notes say I completely forgot they were here.
Which is wild because it's such an important episode in the trajectory of the trio, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and yes, apologies to Tom Lang, because I do actually really enjoy, like you said this before, Michael, they do have comedy, and we needed them for a little bit of like jokey, even though their story maybe has one of the darker endings, because theirs ends with one of them being murdered. But I do think like their jokiness kind of breaks up the like intensity of the episode, which then is a trick because they have a pretty intense ending there.
Yeah.
But I do like their stuff, and they have good chemistry. I mean, I understand people's issues with Andrew like coming back and getting more of a like redemption arc because Jonathan probably earned it more. But I do enjoy Andrew. I just think he's like a good like fresh breath of air in this season. Even though we had already met him in the prior season, but like he was just like kind of like, oh, the like very silly, annoying villain. And in this, it's like you also see really upfront that Andrew's kind of pathetic, right? Like he doesn't have a place. He doesn't have friends. His only friend is this man that was dragging him along that he was in love with, who is now dead and appearing to him as an evil ghost. And he's going to betray the one friend he has left because of that ghost man.
And what's really interesting about them is, you know, they kind of are set apart from the rest of the stories in this because they're physically moving to an end. While everybody else is very stationary. You know, Willow doesn't even get up off the chair until the end, but like they are physically moving through. And I mean, if you've seen the episode before, you know, it comes to this big conclusion. I don't know. That part, I still don't like their part in this, but it does stick out.
Yeah. I feel like too, this episode makes it clear that Jonathan doesn't need a redemption arc. Like Jonathan knows what they did was wrong, and he's ready to atone, and he's ready to like physically like make a difference, to do what he can. And also, you know, we all know what the actor went on to do, so he was fine.
Yeah. That is also true.
He's okay. They were giving me big, like, I have my 20th high school reunion coming up, and they were giving me big feels, and that I'm so glad I'm not going. But anyway, we'll get there. I will say, they always have a few lines that land really well, and then so many other lines. And it's like, you really have to throw in every fandom possible. Like, we have an Indiana Jones reference, we have Star Trek, we have Star Wars, and it's just like, oh my God, you know, nerds specialize, right? Like, I love everything. Anyway, I find them exhausting. But I also want to note, like, I feel like Warren, as much as I hate him, he has a really good screen presence. Like, he is good at what he does.
Yeah.
Yes, because just seeing him, you're like, fuck, like, this is the man that did all the bad things last season. Fuck.
And like the way he's talking to Andrew, and you're just like, oh no. And then okay. Anyway, I'm the one who's derailing us now. Okay, so we have our scene with the boys, and then we have our first Dawn scene, which is freaking adorable. Her dancing around, getting pizza, getting some on the shirt and saying, she'll think it's blood. Like, that is such a sister's thing.
Oh, I love the anchovy song.
Yes.
The anchovy song.
You know, it's nice to just see Dawn, you know, before, when we got to see her like alone doing teen girl things. I mean, this is one of my biggest like positives of season 7. They do a really good like Dawn rehabilitation. She's not... You know, like lots of times in season 5 or 6, if she was alone being a teen girl, it was her being like angry and crying and screaming. Yeah. But this is just like her being like a teen girl at 1630 Ravello Drive having fun, right? She's playing with her sister's weapons, which like, of course, is dangerous. But like, we assume that she's at least a little bit more competent than most of us right now would be at handling weapons. Yeah. And like the fact that like she seems like she's pretending to be the Slayer when she's like, demon scum, and like swinging the axe. It's just... Dawn doesn't get to do that a lot, so it's nice to see her do that.
Yeah.
And even smashing up the house, like, it didn't feel as annoying as it would have in 5 or 6.
I do have a note of what the hell music was Dawn listening to?
Yes.
It's like mariachi music.
Well,
right?
so whenever that music played, I just immediately snapped back to Buffy washing some fucking dishes. And it's just that feeling of dread. And it's that one song where I think it's the same thing. It
kind of does sound like that song she cries to doing dishes to, but I also wonder if it's just like, we couldn't afford another song for this, so we just like...
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
I'm not getting licensing for a song.
And then we cut to Willow in the... so Dawn scene ends with like, she puts something in the microwave and she hears a loud thud, and then we cut to Willow in the library.
She puts something in the microwave. She puts a solo marshmallow in the microwave without even a plate under it. Do you understand how much cleaning that would require? That's terrible.
Are you worried about this cleaning and not the cleaning they have to do at the very end of the episode, Michael? Like we need a whole episode on how they clean the Summers house.
Look,
I'm baffled.
my thing is like you got to start on the micro level because the macro the macro of the Summers' lives is already such a mess. I can't clean a hurricane if I can't even clean a microwave. Okay,
Michael, I appreciate that Kiersten is a mom, but you just did the mom thing of like that microwave. You needed a plate. Like, what do you do?
I can hear you. I can hear you physically scrubbing it.
Like, if I was dead, what could summon me to my kids would be something like that. Like, are you kidding me?
You're like, I taught you to put a plate down.
Yes.
But so that she hears that thud, and then we cut to Willow, which I don't know why, but like I was kind of surprised that Cassie like immediately pops in, right? Like, but Azora Sky. So good. And Willow, the delivery here, which I mean, Allison Hannigan's always really good at her delivery, but delivery here is especially good because Zach, it goes back to what you said. Like, I think it does feel very much like a play. Like, she's just like, did I fall asleep? And like, I forget what Cassie says, but then Willow's like, well, also because you're dead. Like, Willow recognizes her. And she even says like, I know you. Well, I saw pictures of you.
That's so funny to me. Like, they kill a lot of people on this show, right? They've lost people who matter to them. And then I agree that the actress does a good job, but it was such an odd choice.
Yeah.
I kind of like it though. Okay, so thinking about it, it was supposed to be Tara originally, right?
Yeah.
But they couldn't get that. So, but I think this works because Cassie is removed enough that she could still trick Willow because she doesn't have to take on all of Tara. She could still trick Willow and say that Tara's saying this or that. And that goes also with Dawn too, is like there's this demon in the middle of her and Joyce where that demon presence could, it's that barrier so that, I don't know, I feel like if you were just face to face with your loved one, like the entire time, you'd kind of pick up on something pretty quick, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It makes the manipulation more powerful, I think.
Yeah.
And I think you raise a good point because obviously we know that the First can appear as any person who has passed. So the First could have easily just appeared as Joyce or easily just appeared as Tara, actors, schedules notwithstanding. But the idea then that in both cases with Dawn and Willow, there's sort of this intermediary, like this thing that you have to work through, the demon in the house. The Tara's talking through Cassie because what you did when you went bad is terrible.
Yeah.
It's really, it makes the First more smart, most smartest.
Smarterer.
Smarter? Yeah.
What are words? None of us are writers here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about if Tara had been in there? Do you think it would have been too much?
I think the emotional reaction would have had to have been so much stronger that it would have changed the scene entirely. So I do think I do love that Amber Benson, A, had a scheduling conflict, but also B, didn't want Tara to appear and be evil, knowing how much Tara meant to so many viewers. I agree with that. But also I just think I agree. I think having this intermediary, having this sense of like, well, you could talk to Tara, but you did those bad things. So you have to talk to this sweet, innocent girl instead, who's going to be the go-between. I think that worked really well. I mean, there definitely is a sense of like, surely they would have used Tara if they could have. Sure. But this works so well.
Yeah, and I will say, I was trying to find it. I don't even remember who sent it to me, but someone sent me the original script with Tara in it, and it just reads too cruel. It's like just too cruel that like rewatching it, I was getting emotional thinking of when Dana and LaToya and I interviewed Amber, right, last year. And Amber talked about that, and she said she just also, like she did say, I did have a scheduling conflict, but also I just couldn't do that to fans. And I just love her. Amber Benson is like a true like angel. And like you said, Kiersten, she knew how much Tara meant and how cruel that would have been to the fans. And here, like all I did was read the script, right? And I just like, it gave me a stomach ache reading that Tara is supposed to tell, like they go in depth with the killing of yourself. And it's like, make sure you cut, down and not across when you do it. And like, I don't know how I would have dealt with hearing Tara say those. Like, I just, especially if we don't get, if that's the last time we see Tara, I don't want that to be the last time I see Tara is her telling Willow how to slit her wrists. Right.
Right.
So yeah. I will say the Cassie thing, as someone who does this often, it almost feels like, shit, we didn't get Amber Benson. She said no, and that was 3 weeks ago, and now we're 2 days out, and we're supposed to film tomorrow, and, well, who can we get?
Call everyone who's ever been on the show.
Yeah. Who are the last 5 people that died on this show? Call all those actors. Yep. Which one of them can do it?
I do love Cassie, though. I do love Cassie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And again, that actor, she is just so good. And I mean, she's really, I will say, when we revisited Help earlier, last year, when we revisited Help, I was surprised that, like, I don't love that episode so much, but watching it, I was like, oh, this is really good, because Azura Sky is really good as this one-off character, and that's what makes those characters stand out, right? Because you can have one-off characters that, like, you know, were in seasons 2 or 3 that I could not even name, but, like, I can name Cassie, who was only in 2 episodes, and I very much remember her stellar performances in both as, like, kind of 2 different characters, right? Like, here it's pretending to be Cassie, but it's not really her. I might have been okay if it had been, and Zach, I can't remember if you said this to me. I even put this in my notes. Zach might have said this to me. Someone said to me that in conversations with dead people, they wished Holden had been someone who had died in high school.
Well, I wish all of these people kind of like even with Andrew, I wish they would have just done somebody from high school or had him in high school. I know they didn't think of him at that time, but like even, you know, maybe like earlier in the series, kill Willow's parents or something, you know, kind of utilize them a little bit better than just, but like, how do they utilize them now? They're just gone. They're just like, we don't mention them ever. Like it would have, I don't know. There's a layer there that we never get to explore with Willow and her parents, you know?
Right.
That's fair. That is fair. But no, don't kill Willow's parents. I don't want that for Willow.
I think she would have been just fine.
But okay, so moving along, yeah. So they kind of just, the episode does a lot more, this time watching it, like having to take notes for it, it does a lot more of like, oop, 2 lines, now we're going back to the other characters, which I noticed. And Kiersten, I'm going to put you in charge of saying, Ian, that doesn't matter, keep moving when I'm doing all the different cuts, because of course I took notes on like every one of them. But so Cassie does tell Willow, and I remember immediately bursting into tears when she's like, she still sings to you when you both sang on that bridge. Oh my
gosh, Ian. Oh, too much. It was too much.
Right?
Which is why, like, I totally could see it from Tara, just way too cruel. Yeah. But also, the first is supposed to be really fucking cruel, right? So it's but it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's just like the immediate reaction from Willow.
Because we can all picture it too. We saw it.
Right?
Yeah. I'm like, I do remember you singing on that bridge. And then like that we then cut to Dawn, and Dawn's on the phone with, important to note, her friend Kit from Lessons, which is the last time she's ever mentioned.
Poor Kit. But Kit's watching a Tom Hanks movie, and Dawn, being my girl, is watching a good old classic monster film. So,
Michael, do you know which one she's watching?
I actually don't. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna play the game that like, it was such and such. I was more trying to figure out what Tom Hanks movie Kit was watching, just based on context clues.
I think the Tom Hanks movie would have been too traumatizing for Dawn. This is her comfort zone. This is where she gets to stay.
I do love that the first tailored this experience to a teenage girl. Yeah. The first is like, what scares teenage girls? Okay, what movies have I seen? Okay, we're going to do a little bit of this one. We're going to do a little bit of this one. We'll do some blood on the wall. We'll do some creepy letters that have nothing to do with anything else. The TV is possessed. Yeah, the TV is... Like, I could just see the first kind of like plotting this all out and being very satisfied with themselves. Like,
she handles it like a champ, though. Like, she is the Slayer's little sister.
True, but does this episode not prove in many ways that the first is a very pop culture savvy creature? Because not only is the first like laying out like Evil Dead references to Dawn in actual Haunting, but then he's the first is quoting Star Wars via Warren.
The first has a Netflix and Disney Plus subscription. Like, it's just there.
The first had a lot of downtime. I'm just saying.
7 seasons of it.
Yeah.
They're like, I just binged Star Wars real quick so I could mess with you guys.
And since the first never actually can be defeated, just like dissipates, you know that the first is still out there watching TV. The first loved Emily in Paris. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah, probably.
The first is coming on for our final Loki episode.
waiting for that Buffy revival at some point.
But so then, yeah, Dawn was like opens her door. We see all that wind blowing at her. She like unplugs the doesn't she unplug the TV, and that's when she notices
the TV and it keeps going.
Yeah.
Oh, I do want to say, when she opens the door and the wind blows at her, I know that you had asked me to talk about horror illusions in this episode. That's a very, very key moment, because that is a reference to the monkey paw folklore, where when the dead relative is coming back, in the last moment in the story, they make the last wish and they open the door and the wind rushes in, and it's the entrance of the departed.
Oh.
And as you know from the story, that happens because they know the dead you're letting in is not the dead that you want.
Yeah.
And so this moment tells us, when that wind rushes in the door, that ain't Joyce.
Yeah.
You're smart, Michael.
There you go. You're spooking everybody out right now.
So we cut to Buffy in the cemetery. She's fighting this new vampire. And he recognizes her like almost immediately. And I love that she doesn't recognize him.
Yes.
And that does feel on point for Buffy, right?
Yeah.
Like that tracks.
Yeah. Well, who was it that said on Twitter? I know you said it, Ian, that if it was like the Coke meme, you bring Coke, and you said that Buffy wouldn't bring anything because she'd forget. It's just Buffy's whole life. She's just forgetting the people, forgetting, like, if you're not there in her circle at the moment, she's probably forgotten you already.
I mean, and to be fair, she does have a lot going on all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. People argued with me about that, and I was like, no, this is the one thing I know I'm right about, because Buffy just would forget.
Very accurate.
But so Jonathan Woodward plays Holden, and he also played Knox on Angel. I interviewed him at WhedonCon. That man is very wild and very charming. He asked me a question. I forget I don't even remember the answer, but I think it was something like, what's the name of the god Knox worships on Angel? And he was like, I have a question for you. And I was like, oh shit, I don't remember. So he had me lift up my laptop. He held my mic and he went around just asking people at WhedonCon when I interviewed him 2-3 years ago, and just was testing them. No one got it right.
Well, do you know the answer, Ian?
I don't remember anymore.
Oh my goodness, why are you bringing it up?
The girl at the table behind me, when we got back to the table, she said it. And then later I asked her how she got it. And she was like, I Googled it real quick on my phone. And I was like, all right, well, I appreciate that you but yeah, you can find that. There's brief interviews at WhedonCon. That's like the last one, I think. It's very weird. But yeah, I think he also does a really good job. While I do agree that it would have been nice if he had been a character we knew, he does a really good job too, right? I do think he does a good job.
Also, I think this is the one where I was like, no, that makes sense to me, because the fact that she doesn't remember him, that she doesn't know him, doesn't have a history with him, doesn't have a personal connection to him, because it's like he says later, like, sometimes it's easier to tell these things to strangers. And like, I think that their whole rapport works because she has no baggage with him, right? Like, she knows exactly what their relationship is.
Yeah.
He might have a little bit of baggage with her because he's hurt that she doesn't remember him, even if he pretends like he isn't. But But yeah, I think this is the one where I was like, yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that casting. I'm fine that this isn't a reference to something else.
Well, absolutely. And, like we saw all throughout season 6, she didn't tell anybody her problems that she knew. So it has to be a stranger. It has to be somebody she doesn't really remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. Yeah, you're right. In season 6, the only person she told was like Tara, right? And that was because she kind of had to.
Tara.
Yeah. And she really didn't consider Tara a close friend, so it was just like, yeah, sure, I can tell you.
Yeah.
And at that point, Tara was removed from the group. Like, she wasn't dating Willow. She wasn't hanging out with the Scoobies.
Mm-hmm.
So then we cut back to Dawn. And I like genuinely feel bad for Dawn. I just this would scare me. I mean, it really would. And I do think that her smashing the appliances, I'm like, I don't know that this is
Listen, she is still stealing shit, because how is she replacing any of this? How does this stuff get replaced?
Yeah, my only note is you can't afford to replace any of that.
Right. But she reacted the way a teenager probably would. Like, it's instead of just, though I guess in a way it's also unbelievable, right? Because this isn't Dawn's first day at the rodeo.
Yeah.
Any night
Also
in
that.
Sunnydale, weird shit goes down. So like when your record player doesn't turn off, do you leap straight to smashing things? No one would have appliances in this town because things are going wrong all the time. So it does kind of show Dawn's lack of preparation in comparison to everyone else. And also it's just like, girl, you exist because you're mystical energy created by a hell god. Like maybe don't freaking leap to destroying the stereo.
Maybe put a plate under the marshmallow, Dawn. just have some respect.
Or maybe that stereo was going to be her new brother.
Exactly.
She's got a lot of pent up rage, though. Her sister don't even answer her damn phone half the time. So you know what? Let her smash the TV every now and then.
Well,
It's true.
yeah.
But so we get, and I remember the gasp I let out when watching this when we just hear Joyce say,
Oh my
Dawn
gosh,
over the
yes.
radio. And like, I mean, there are a lot more. The gasps got louder and louder throughout the episode, but I can remember how I felt when I was like, oh, that was Joyce, like, fuck. Because like, that's such a, right? Like everyone remembers when Joyce died. Like that's such a big moment in the show, in the universe of the show. And it's also a voice that you can, if you're a fan of the show, you recognize whose voice that is like immediately, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I just think that works really well that we like subtly start to like, we hear her, then we see her, and then we like see her being attacked. And then she's, you know, this bright shining angel, but it's actually evil. Like the buildup of Joyce works so well here.
And then hearing Dawn say the exact thing that Buffy said, you know, mommy, it's just like, oh, chills, man. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
We cut back to Buffy. Buffy does remember him once he says that he like lit their production of Pippin. She's like, oh yeah.
I don't think she did either. I don't think she did. At some point, you just have to agree with somebody and say, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, you know, established Pippin fan Buffy Ann Summers.
No, I love this whole scene. Like, it's so awkward and so funny. And then also, I loved that they threw in, and I took 2 years of Taekwondo. That's how I was able to rise from the grave and immediately be able to high kick you. Like,
Right?
I never thought anybody with any other vampire ever, how they all come up suddenly imbued with the power of high kicks. But they went ahead and dropped that in here for us. I took 2 years of Taekwondo. All right, cool.
Like, all right, sure.
There's a training course right before they come up.
Yeah.
And I do love the reveal of like, he says like, Scott Hope said you were gay. And she's like, I dated that ringworm. And he's like, well, he came out eventually. And just their lines here are very good, right? Like, I mean, like you said earlier about Willow sitting down talking the whole time, like Buffy does a little bit of fighting, but mostly she's just standing around talking to this guy. Like they have a few fights in between, but it's a lot of, I mean, that's the title of the episode, Conversations with Dead People, and that's what we get in the episode.
I love when he says, like, I'm connected to an all-consuming evil, and he's, like, so happy about it. And then she says she's not so much, and that she has to fight them, and he said, oh, so you get paid. No, she does not. She does not get paid.
Kiersten keeps laser focused on that.
No, I'm right there with you. Not even a stipend. Nothing.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, and this scene is the sort of brevity that we want from Buffy, right? Because, you know, especially after the last 2 seasons, and I think what makes this episode so strong, and it's a conversation fans have a lot. You see a lot of fans rally against season 6 because they don't like how dark it is. But when you look at the kind of keystone moments of this series, Buffy thrives in the darkness.
Oh,
We really, really have to have these truly like in the pit of despair moments, the darkness all encompassing. And the fact that this episode deals that in such a heavy hand, but also manages to give us a good old fashioned quippy conversation in the midst of it all is really all cylinders firing.
Yeah. This is almost her talking to herself also, like having a sort of inner, just conversation. And I mean, I guess she died, so conversations with dead people still, like,
exactly.
That counts.
Yeah. Any conversation with Buffy.
And he says, like, he immediately starts, like, doing this, like, 101 thing. And I love that Michael, you said it's like she makes the reference, but she's like, what I really need is emotional therapy from the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And it's also like, oh, but that's what you always go to, Buffy. Like,
yeah, she actually does. It's very true.
It really does. Yeah.
Cut back to Dawn, and we get Ian's like third gasp of the episode when I first watched it of, we see Buffy's phone's ringing, and like you said, Zach, she's not answering that phone. And so Dawn is like, whatever. And we see Dawn sitting on the coffee table, and we get Kiersten, the shot you mentioned of the blip of Joyce on that couch behind her, which is, so good, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, that one was a really that one just shakes me to my core just because I feel like The Body was a traumatic episode for everybody who watched it. And we all remember, if you think of The Body, you remember her on that couch, you can see it clear as day in your mind. And then they show it to us. And it's just fuck.
Well, and she can't even see it, right? So that really is just the first being a jerk.
Yeah.
I got something.
Yeah.
And that's so much more effective and so much scarier than the mother's milk is red today painted on the wall or whatever. And I think, I mean, as much as I love horror and I love all the references to other horror, I think for me, almost that moment was lost amidst the chaos of Dawn's experience that came later. But I think that's why that's the one that I like the most, is because that's the genuinely horrifying moment, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the real life horror. That's the actual trauma.
Right. And it's just taunting Dawn, taunting Dawn with her trauma of she knows this is where her mom died. Granted, she didn't find her mom there, but she knows that's what happened. So and putting her in that same outfit, just...
Well, no, and it's so interesting, pointing out the references as well, because two movies, as you just pointed out a few seconds ago, Ian, are referenced by name in this episode. One is Buffy mentioning the Evil Dead right before this scene, and later Andrew references Hellraiser. And visually, both of those movies are represented in other people's stories. And this specifically is sort of the Hellraiser moment, Hellraiser 2 specifically, where they know that the ghost of Julia, or the ghost of Dad, rather, is trapped in hell. And they're trying to communicate, but they can't see him. And they get the blood on the walls and the writing on the walls. That's and then we get this with Dawn in a few minutes with Joyce banging I'm here, but something else is.
Yeah.
And so that moment is interesting. In a way, it's almost the writers leading us we did Hellraiser and Evil Dead in this episode, and in case they don't get it, we're gonna say so.
And you know what was so messed up about this too is this shot of just Joyce on the couch is that, if we were putting ourselves in Dawn's shoes and acting like this was real, Dawn can only put together an image of her, what happened in her mind, because like you said, she didn't see it. She didn't see this. But what the first can do that's really, really fucked up is show her exactly what it looked like,
Yeah.
And I think that is just it's just the taunting there is
Yeah, it's so cruel to poor Dawn, who has not had the best existence up to this point.
How old is she? She's 2?
Yeah, she's a 2-year-old.
Okay.
So the house shakes, and we cut to Andrew and Jonathan Mission Impossibling into the new Sunnydale High School. And this is you are right, Kiersten. There are a lot of references in these scenes. And I will say, I've never actually seen Hellraiser, Michael, so I do like you throwing down the references. But I guess, is it that meme of the skinned alive man where it says on the wall, "Help, I'm in hell," that I use a lot on Twitter? Is that the dad?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
As dads do,
just dad things.
Yeah.
So Andrew and Jonathan are kind of talking about, basically, the gist of their conversations is we want friends. We want to be included in Buffy's group.
All of
something
us.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the 4 of us. But something that Jonathan doesn't get, and Andrew does by the end. It takes him a while, but he does.
I mean, join their gang and possibly hang out at Buffy's house. And he gets that, right?
Yeah, he does.
He's out in the bathroom.
Yeah. And give it 3 more episodes, and he'll be tied up in a chair for the rest of the season.
Right. I mean, who knows? I think that maybe Jonathan dying and then getting to go hang out with Paris Geller was what needed to happen.
Wait, what's that reference?
Or alternatively, Jonathan went to hell.
That's true.
No, he was Paris's college boyfriend on Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
He was?
Yeah.
Yes. And then they got married and had kids and then got divorced because clearly, Paris is not a straight woman.
Okay, so my only point of reference for Gilmore Girls is my ex watched the revival when it came back, and I watched the very end of the very last episode, and I remember being like, "That's it? That's how it ends?" And I saw that was kind of echoed on Twitter that people felt that way.
I've only seen the Mad TV skit about Gilmore Girls. That's about it.
But so we get all this, and then they like, oh no, we don't see Warren yet. They just like do a lot of Star Wars quoting. But I wanted to say, Andrew saying, "You think?" Oh no, we do see Warren. They do split up, and Warren walks in as Jonathan walks out, and Andrew's saying, "You think maybe Willow can kill me too?" I said is such like a gay twink would say that on Twitter about Willow if she had like a actual Twitter account or she were a pop star. I'd be like, "Can you kill me too, Queen?" Like, they quote Star Wars, and Warren's clearly manipulating Andrew. Actually, I think this scene, Kiersten specifically, right, is where they quote like 10 different things.
They did, yeah. I mean, there's just so many references, but I will admit the ending where Warren's like, "There is another," and Andrew's like, "Wait, what? Really? There's another?" And he's like, "No, I just want to say it." Like that was funny. That worked for me.
She'll give you that.
Yeah, and I do think that I'm sorry, I don't know his name. That the Warren actor's delivery in all of these scenes is really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing that they do a good job of with the actors this season is like when they're the first, even if they're the first impersonating that character, it's like just slightly more sinister, right?
Yeah.
And he does feel slightly more sinister than Warren already felt. Like Warren's presence is already like, ugh, but then the way he's acting when he's the first is like just more like he's just kind of gliding into the scene. He almost has like dead eyes. He's just kind of staring at Andrew.
Yeah.
And it works, right?
Right.
Cassie's telling Willow that the thing that you mentioned, she's saying, because you killed people, this is why you can't see her. And I know I've said this on the podcast before, but I'm going to say it again. The season 7 trading cards had like very weird things written on the back of them that like very much were not canon, even though they were like the official trading cards. And for this trading card of this scene, it said on the back, the reason Tara actually couldn't visit Willow is because she was a powerful witch and her bond with Willow was like too powerful for the first to break. And I like to believe that that's like what happened here.
Oh, yeah.
I'll accept that.
Right? It's such a weird thing for them to add on a trading card, but
yeah. I just have a quote. She just can't, and I was like, scheduling conflicts plus Amber being protective. So she really couldn't.
Not even a Zoom call. Tara couldn't have even zoomed in.
Zooms with dead people.
Oh no!
Don't say it because somebody's going to do it. I
don't want a Buffy reboot. Now that you said that,
yeah, let's not.
I don't want it.
Michael, I want you to write that horror movie. Thank you.
Zooms with dead people. I did. Unusual Attachment. It's a short film I made during quarantine. Right. Everybody go watch it now.
So we cut to the scene ends with Willow. Cassie says to her, "You're strong like an Amazon, remember?" Which like hurts my heart because that's what fucking Tara said to her after Joyce died. And it's like, they're pulling on everything here. And Willow's like, "I do remember." We see Spike is at the bronze.
I do like that Spike scenes, they just let his cheekbones do the talking.
Yeah.
They really do, right?
Yep. They're like, "Here's a shot of his cheekbones. You don't need anything else."
And we don't.
Very music video. It's all a music video.
Yeah. Because Holden's even talking over like the end of the like Spike cut. It's like Holden's voice. He's like, "So you meet someone," which is, that's why we have Spike there. But then I love that they're like seated in therapy.
Yeah.
I even took this picture for the cover, but I don't think I'm using this one. And I don't know. I just like their discussion. Because we don't get Buffy doing this, right? Like, I mean, Zach, you even said she spent all of season 6 not telling anyone anything. And season 7, she kind of just, the thing I like about this is a lot of season 7 feels like we're not addressing the problems, but here Buffy does. She explicitly talks about her issues. She like recaps season 6, right? Yeah. Like, and I do like getting to see her do that because it bothers me that we don't, but at least we do get it here. And I do really like the way it's done here. And I like that it's like, it is like a therapy session. It is a stranger, and she also, I mean, Sam Michelle Gellar always committed. I don't think any of us have that in question, but she really commits to the like, all right, I'm going to tell you, but like, Buffy never looks insecure, but she looks insecure when she's telling him, and that makes sense because she doesn't often tell people these things.
And they also remind us how young she is. They say she's 21 specifically, and it's like it always smacks you in the face because it's like, that's the maturity of a nearly 30-year-old, right? And it's just crazy. She's 21 years old. Fuck.
And I love when she says, I think you're confusing me because you're evil. And he says, you should just ease up on yours. Also, I will say, I have been not so feeling great this week. And all the things he kept saying to her, I was like, I should listen to this. I should listen to this. He's like, you should ease up on yourself. It's not like you have the patent on bad relationships. And she says, wouldn't it be cool if I did?
I love when he says, I was afraid to talk to you in high school. And now we're like mortal enemies. And again, I have that's why I'm not going to my 20-year reunion. Just kidding.
Kiersten doesn't need more mortal enemies.
I don't need it anymore. No, they were afraid to talk to me in high school. As well they should have been.
I love you.
Well, if there are any Taekwondo vampires in your graduating class, I think we know who to stay away from.
Exactly. Yeah. And then
she teaches him what sire means, which I love that she says it's a noun too.
Yes.
And when Buffy says, I get in the context of this conversation, when she's like, you're not leaving the cemetery because I can't let you. And he's like, oh, you think you're going to win? And it's positioned as her superiority complex, but also us as the viewers know that this random vampire is going to lose this fight because it's Buffy and we're 7 seasons in and she's not losing to some random vampire.
And she also kind of says it like she's a little bummed out too, right?
Yeah.
Because it's
she says it. Yeah. He says, is it because we're going to fight? And she says, it's because I'm going to win. And she's very matter of fact about it, but there's also a sort of melancholy undertone to it. She knows how his story ends. And it's sad.
Yeah.
I just have so many quotes from this conversation. This is a great conversation. In terms of 1 and 2 liners, oh, I struck a nerve. She says, I'm going to strike a nerve cluster in a minute. I don't even know if it makes sense, but I like it.
Well, it also tracks too because we know Buffy's not the most A+ student. So for her, her references in this case are very her. I don't expect her to have the deets on anatomy, but
And they talk about her parents' divorce and I forget what she says, but I also wrote down a lot of lines for this. And he's like, I'm here to kill you, not to judge you. It's such a good line.
It's such a good line. I wrote that one down too. Yeah. But I love he's the only one who's asking her real questions and she can really talk to him because she knows he's going to die, right? There's no, it really is having a conversation with herself when someone's finally forcing her to just say out loud, yes, I had a violent sexual relationship. Yes, I had these things happened to me. Yes, you're right. I don't trust that I can have happiness. Because, it's again, what are the stakes for her? Sorry. I can't help it. But I like that. I like that she can have this honesty because it's contained. It's a bottle episode. It's a bottle therapy session, right?
And it also comes at a point where she's if you're going to therapy in real life, you have to be removed from the peak of all of that at some point in order to kind of address it. And she is she's here where she is able to be more matter of fact instead of just crumbling into pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. And I will say my last favorite line from this section was when he said something to her. I can't even remember what he said. And she says, I think I'm going to kill you just a little bit more than usual. It's so good. It's so her and it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
The two of them do really good acting opposite each other, I think. And I think Sarah Michelle Gellar is probably Claire Kramer said on the podcast once that Sarah Michelle Gellar made you want to be a better actor because she never missed.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably true of everyone's interactions with her. And it's so apparent here. And it's this new character we've never met before, but this scene is so engaging. And she talks about Spike here, which is so important to me that she does talk about their relationship.
Yeah.
And in my brain, I was like, wait, I thought she tells him it's Spike, but it's important that she doesn't say the name Spike until the end for the reveal.
Right.
But I do like hearing her. She really does a good job and a fair job, even more fair than she needed to be, a summation of the relationship and of what she went through in season 6. And I just, and again, talking about it with the three of you, I'm realizing it does track that she wouldn't have talked about this with her friends because she spent the whole season not telling people things. So, like, of course, she's not going to even talk about that with them, right? Yeah. Buffy's very, like, we've moved on from that problem. I'm moving on. Even if, like, she's not actually moved on, she's just making herself move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, in the last 2 seasons, I mean, season 6 and season 7 really are all about the isolation of Buffy, right?
Yeah.
The self-imposed isolation of Buffy, and that's why the final beat of Chosen, when she smiles, it's that weight finally lifted, and then we see kind of the progress of how she digs herself into that place over 2 years, and this is a key moment.
Yeah,
I think of that.
So we cut back to Dawn, and we see more of Joyce. This time we see she's being attacked by, like, the power's out. There's flashes of light, and we see she's being attacked by, like, a beast. Which is actually what happens right prior to that is the power starts going out, and she starts, like, the tables are flipped, the chairs are flipped up on the table, and, like, that's...
Oh yeah, it's a poltergeist moment.
I was going to say, yeah, that I get that reference, and also it feels like, I mean, but of course that's a reference to Poltergeist, but, like, Paranormal Activity did that too, like, a lot of...
Right.
And that always works for me. I can remember, I'm not sure if it was Goosebumps or some other random, like, child geared horror. It might have been the Scary Stories You Tell in the Dark, where, like, it was, like, a quote unquote true story of, like, a haunted house. And it was like the mom left the room and she came back and all the furniture was flipped over. And so, like, that shit always works and, like, creeping me out. Yeah,
I love that though, because, even in Poltergeist, that great scene where Jo Beth Williams, like, steps away from the kitchen island and we go back and there are all these chairs stacked. I'm like, ghosts are really good.
Yeah.
Because, like, I can barely move one piece of furniture without, like, it being a disaster.
Yeah.
Like,
and not to go off on, like, a tangent, but, like, just real quick side note, Jo Beth Williams getting so excited over this poltergeist activity, just, like, was just so great because, yeah, you'd be freaked out at first, but when it keeps happening, right? Isn't it kind of cool?
Exactly, with the sliding meat. Yeah. She's like, look at
this. And then we get, so, like, Dawn is freaking out. It's, like, scary. She gets the axe thrown at her. And we get, I think what's an important moment for Dawn moving forward is that she goes to run, right? She opens the door. There's, like you said, Michael, it's that wind coming in. And the voice, the quote-unquote voice of the monster is like, get out. And then she shuts the door and she's like, I'm not going anywhere. This is my mom. And I almost wish it's, like, undercut retroactively because we know, like, that was the plan all along to trick her because they wanted to scare her. But I don't know. I felt, like, proud of Dawn. That felt like character development, right? She's not just running to Buffy. She's like, no, I'm going to see what's going on because this is my mom. And I don't want to, like, even if it's her ghost, I don't want to abandon the ghost of my mom.
Yeah.
Right.
The whole season is like just such great character development for her rather than like the end of season 6, even. This one, she dresses better. She's a lot more mature. She's, fighting better. It's just, and it is a really good moment for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. We see Andrew and Jonathan. They're kind of this house of leaves in the basement, but he sees where Warren is. He knows that's where they need to go. We cut back to Buffy.
And I will say Warren's looming there is so creepy.
Yeah.
It's so creepy. Yeah.
And so Buffy has knocked Holden through the stained glass window of, it's not actually called a crypt, right? That's not actually what you call that. What's
a mausoleum, right?
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I'm saying crypt because that's what they say where Spike lives, but I know that's not the correct term. And so she, like, smashes him through there. And I really love, this is, like, especially to, like, 19, 20-year-old atheist Ian, it was like, when she's like, he's like, oh my God. And she's like, oh, your God, what? And he's like, well, not my God, because I defy him and everything he stands for. And then he asks her, like, is there any definitive answer on that? And she just kind of shrugs and is like, nothing really solid. Like, I don't know.
I mean, she's been there to see. She didn't see nothing. So
that's true. But I like that line. I was like, I remember when that, like, happened. I was like, oh, I love that. Because I appreciated that they genuinely had her be like, I don't know. Like Buffy's not thinking about that. She doesn't care, right? That's not.
No, and you go crazy in that world if you tried to figure it out, right? Because there are gods and there are demons who function as gods, and there's magic and there's vampires who react to religious symbolism, but only some religious symbolism.
Right.
And like holy water works, so you would assume that there's something there, but yeah.
She does not have the time to figure this out.
She doesn't. Time, right? She's she's the whatever. I'll deal with it when it comes.
And I do think that tracks for Buffy, right? That she'd just be like, I don't know. Like, you looked into that. I'm not looking into that. And then Holden, the important thing is here, Holden also catches on that Buffy's ex that she talked about was a vampire, right? He like puts the clues together and is like, oh, it was a vampire. We get the brief cut to Willow and Cassie, which watching this, I realized that script is probably the shortest script that was written, right? Like, the cuts to them, it's like at the top and then at the end, that scene gets a longer cut. But other than that, it's like 2-3 lines and then we cut away. But the important thing here is that Cassie tells Willow she can't ever use magic again. And that Tara says, you're not going to be okay. You're going to kill everybody. And that's like important for Willow's paranoia that we do get through the rest of the season, which does annoy me slightly sometimes, but that's important moving forward. Then we get more of Andrew and Jonathan. We don't actually know, like I know that we know, but at the time we don't know really what they're doing, right? Like we don't know what that is.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're digging up the seal. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Kiersten.
Oh, I was just going to say, this has such like cute lines. Like when Jonathan randomly says some numbers. Yeah. And just like, what? He's like, that was my locker combo. It's been driving me crazy. I've been trying to remember it this whole time. Cause like, yeah, right? Like you, right. Yeah. And I think Jonathan's lines here are so sweet. Like he would want to go to my reunion for me. Yeah. He'd be all over Facebook. He'd be the one who likes all of your photos. He'd be the only active person on your high school's graduating class page.
Are you trying to make people cry? Let's calm down here.
Right? And then when I think Andrew's trying to build himself up to what he knows he's going to do, right? And so he says, not one of them cares about you. And I love this line. Jonathan says, well, I still care about that. And like, I'm a mom. I have written, oh, sweet boy. It's so sweet. And I think this for me is the reason why it's okay that Jonathan dies, which makes me sound terrible. He dies. So it's okay that he dies. But I feel like he has done the growing that he needed to do, right? Like he's no longer going to cast spells so that he can become the Jonathan that everyone loves. And he's not going to, he's not going to join an evil trio. Like he's actively trying to do good. He's trying to help. He has no anticipation of any rewards, but he's going to do it anyway because he cares about the people that he knows and that he used to know that never cared about him. Like he can care about them without needing anything in return. So it's okay. It's okay that he died. Is what I'm saying. But that makes him a character with less growth to do as opposed to Andrew. So it did make sense for Andrew to be the one who survives and then has the through line in the season.
Yeah, I mean, again, like 21-year-olds and Jonathan's done all the growing he needs to do in life. Like he's good. He can die now. Yeah.
Meanwhile, cut to me at 38, like,
a little bit more grown to do.
But I think it's true, right? Because even in these moments, we realize that Jonathan's redemption arc is complete in ways that characters we spend far more time with in this series still never get. And I think that was really, really great writing. And it also it shows that redemption comes in many ways. Like, when you look at Angel or you look at Spike, their redemption arcs had to be big because of just the mythology. But Jonathan's redemption arc didn't have to be grand. It just had to be human. And I think that's really like what made this moment powerful. And I guess he got his absolution and then gets killed for it. But well,
even the line delivery, right, is like it's just resolved there. He's at peace already with himself.
Well, so funny that my notes said, like in my notes, I put like I really like his like speech here, But also knowing the show, I should have anticipated that meant he was going to die very soon.
Yeah.
Just right. That's usually when characters on the show die, is when they get like, oh, their moment of like clarity and zen and like understanding, and then boop, they're dead. Like,
And at peace. Yes, now you're going to rest in it. Like,
yeah. So we see Dawn trying to expel the demon from the house. She's like doing the work.
Now this is the big horror illusion,
Yes.
right? But so this was, when we get the Evil Dead mention earlier, this is the end of Evil Dead 2, because if anybody knows that movie, at the end, Ash and his pal are using the Necronomicon to read from the book to expel the demon, and the house is fighting back, and invisible cuts like open on their skin because the demon's not going down, and this all happens here. This is Evil Dead smack in the center of Sunnydale, but Dawn thinks it's her mom, and that's
It's hurtful.
Yeah.
my question with this scene is we've established, like it gets established very clearly in season 7 that the first can't touch you. The first doesn't have physical form. The first
I
can't
know.
affect the world in a material way. So I'm just wondering, like, what demon did he subcontract with?
right.
Right?
And listen, cut to Dawn, and she's going through it. But you know what? I have no doubt that she's like, she can cast out any demon at this point, any Pazuzu, any, like, this right here is her calling. She is full on exorcist here.
Yeah, she stepped it up.
Yeah. I loved it. I loved the messy hair look and the slight cut on the face, and
And Michelle Trachtenberg is doing some good acting.
I think
too,
so. I think so.
Yeah.
She really is. I hope she put Bactine on that cut, though. It looks serious.
I mean, Kiersten, I feel like they didn't. I mean, that's a critique I have of season 7. I don't think they quite knew 100% where they were going until they got there.
I don't think they did either. I think that they really didn't think that one through, because really the only explanation you can have is that the first subcontract. he brought in outside help. But yeah, I think the same. I think that they hadn't quite worked out what the limits, what the parameters of the power were. But it's such an effective scene, and it's such a fun scene that, like, it's fine. I can just retcon it in my head that he hired like this invisible demon buddy that he had good reviews. He had a good Yelp rating. Like reliable, consistent work in hauntings and possessions. And so, just if you can't do it yourself, you hire someone who can.
No, here's a question for everybody. Is this all happening concurrently, do we think?
I think so.
I always took it that way. Yeah.
Call and then Buffy's phone rings, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Because like, and I'm maybe just have a hole in my memory here, but it's super rare that the first appears in more than one place at once. This is like kind of the only time we see it. So
going back to Kiersten and I saying, I just think they hadn't. Yeah. I don't even think they laid out the rules of the first yet.
Yeah,
because think about
the first has existed since season 3.
Well, but in season 3, it as Jenny Calendar, it touches Angel. So, like, previously it wasn't completely incorporeal, but now it is, which, like, it doesn't say till, I think, like, 3 episodes from now when we first see Andrew again, and Warren says to Andrew that I, like, learned the word incorporeal from the show. But yeah, I just think they just didn't have all the rules laid out yet. Mm-hmm. So then we cut to Buffy giving what is one of my favorite, like, moments of the Buffy Holden stuff, that I like all of it, but I love her that she's saying, like, he's telling her she has superiority complex, and she's like, actually, I feel like I don't deserve all of this. Like, I feel like, and then he says, like, you do have a superiority complex and then an inferiority complex about it, which I felt like, fuck. Is that how, like, everyone depressed on Twitter is? Like,
listen, I cannot. One of the things I hate about this show is when people say that Buffy thinks she's better than everybody else, and they're really driving it in this season. And I cannot stand that, because I don't see it at all. And maybe it's there and I'm missing it, but I don't see that. Buffy is better than everybody else, but, like, I don't think she thinks that.
Yeah. Right. Like, it's not a superiority complex if you literally are stronger and more coordinated and more capable at this one thing than everybody else, right? Like, she shouldn't have Slayer imposter syndrome. She's literally the Slayer. Yeah? So, like, yeah, it's not a superiority complex if it's true. But we do have, like, really good lines here, right? Like, she wanted to be punished. And then she says, this is sort of complicated if you'd rather just fight, right? Which sums up Buffy very well. This is getting emotionally complicated. Let's just fight. But then the line that I wrote down that I thought was so good and so sad was, even if they love me, it doesn't matter. Their opinions don't count. And like, we know so much of season 6 was Buffy being severely depressed, right? And that's such a thing, because the people around you love you, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
And like they deliver a lot of insight in a few very short lines in this, and I really, it was really good. It was really well done.
I mean, yeah, like I said, I've been like very depressed lately, and like all of this, I'm like, oh, I got to take notes on this. Like Holden's like giving me free therapy here.
Was this the episode for you right now, Ian? Should we have gone back to him?
It was. I don't know. I just feel like Buffy's depression always feels kind of relatable, even when it's like, we're not superheroes, but we can still relate to like how she feels. I don't know. I just, I love that. And, I mean, Kiersten, you just said it, but like he says earlier in the episode, he says, "Oh, you're a Slayer." And she's like, and like, she's not being an asshole. She is the Slayer.
Yeah. But it's only okay for everybody else to tell her, you're the Slayer, you're prophesized to do this, you have to do this. But if she says it about herself, like if she just states a fact like that, then she's got a superiority complex. Like, what is that?
Welcome to being a powerful woman.
Yeah.
Like, heaven forbid you ever claim your own accomplishment. Oh no, I'm just the Slayer because they didn't have anybody else. Or I'm just the Slayer because of all of these wonderful women around me supporting me.
Yeah.
I'm a Slayer, but I'm sorry.
Anytime anybody says anything about this, I just flash every single time to Anya, you didn't earn it. It's like, the fuck? The fuck?
Literally chosen.
But I think this exchange, especially, the idea that, their opinion doesn't matter, what we're saying about how depression manifests, is exactly the best encapsulation of why this is such a good episode and why it's such a good horror story. Because horror, when done well, uses that dark lens of the fantastic to take very tangible things and present them as allegory, right? And this episode really, in all of these stories, showcases that the ghosts that they're talking to isn't really what they're being haunted by. They're actually being haunted by grief, by the insecurity. And it's all secondary to the actual specter that's in front of them, because the first doesn't need to actually do anything. What's haunting them is already inside. And that makes this a great horror story.
Michael. Fuck, that was really good.
The end. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Michael just finished the episode.
That's it. You have to cut a part of that into the end. That should be like a finisher.
I'll just cut to the end again. So have them say it and then just repeat it.
Add an echo effect at the very end too, like
a bolt of lightning and thunder.
So we get the needle drop of then she does say Spike's name, and Holden's like, "Wait a minute, did you just say Spike?" And we're reminded that Spike is on this date with this woman. He's walking her back to the her front door. Then we get Dawn is expelling the demon, and Dawn is, I'm like, oh, good for you, Dawn, you're doing the thing. And she's like bloody, and she screams, "That's right, die, you bastard!" And I'm just so proud of her. And she like does the thing, kind of. I mean, not really, but like then she collapses, and we get that bright light, which hurts my feelings. Of Dawn just saying like "Mom," and she's like so bright and like, ugh.
And that's how she would see her mother there, right?
Yes.
In the white dress. That's the vision of heaven. Yeah.
That's just I'm getting emotional, but yes, exactly. That's 100% correct. Like that is how she would see her mother. Like, and the first again is like pulling it all of it knows how to pull it all of them. To make them feel some kind of way about it knows exactly how to make them feel how the first wants them to feel, right?
Exactly.
And I get it. Dawn's like 16 or 17, but the first saying, Buffy's not going to be there when things get bad. Buffy's not going to be on your side. Bullshit. Season 5 finale. She killed herself for you, Dawn. She's proved the loyalty at this point. She's been there. She would have killed everybody else for this little key that's, a couple months old, Little key.
But yeah, but so we don't even get that moment yet.
Oh, we don't? I'm sorry. Okay, we'll go back.
No. Before she does say the thing, we just see Dawn say mom, and we see Joyce.
Yeah.
And I think this, like, what is it? Like, at this point, there's like 10 minutes left of the episode. And these 10 minutes are so good because everything that we've been building up to kind of happens, right? We cut to Willow, and she says, like, she's not strong like an Amazon. And we're like, these cuts are like, 30 seconds. She says she's not strong like an Amazon. And Cassie tells her there's another option and basically, like, pitches her killing herself. And then we cut back to Buffy and Holden saying Spike is the one that sired him. And we see Spike biting that woman.
Wait. Can I ask real quick? Because Spike kind of like is on a date with that woman and like makes out with her before he bites her. Do you think that he and Holden made out, or like?
Yes. Yes. It happened. Canon.
Thank you. Carry on.
So Holden says that Spike sired him. We see Spike siring that woman or biting that woman. And we cut back to Dawn, and that's when Joyce says the thing that you mentioned, Zach. And I love this moment, but I do wish it had actually, like, this one, like, really doesn't really pay off much, right?
No.
It's just like in the realm of season 7, it doesn't. It's a cool scene. It's a cool moment. It's an iconic image. But like what she says doesn't, like, I wish there had been a little bit more, I don't know, it's something else, because I feel like we don't get a call back to this. The next episode does pick up right away. Willow's gotten home. She tells Dawn, like, we can't believe everything we were told last night. But Dawn doesn't ever talk about it with anyone. It's never really...
Yeah.
It should have been said more. Instead of her saying that Buffy, like, can't or won't stick by her, it's maybe Buffy can't protect everybody. Buffy will fail or something like that. I think that would have created a lot more doubt in Dawn's mind than Buffy's not going to stick by you.
Right.
And this one just feels crueler too, right? Because Willow figures it out.
Yeah.
She figures it out really fast. Like, no, this is not communication from Tara. And Buffy, obviously, the twist of the knife there is about Spike. It's not this, but Dawn thinks she saw her mom, and like there's nothing to ever contradict that. And so that this one feels cruel.
It really does.
Yeah, I don't disagree with, but yeah, you're right. Where like it doesn't play in any significant way later on. Yeah, this one just hurts.
Yeah. Then we cut to Andrew stabbing Jonathan, his only friend. He has now murdered him. Jonathan's bleeding out on the seal of Danthazar, which will come into play later. We cut back to Willow, and this speech we get is just so good. And I'm happy to say we have a reading of it with Summer Bishil from The Magicians reading as Cassie, and Briana Venskus from The Walking Dead and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Supergirl reading as Willow.
Suicide thing was too far, huh? You seem so ripe.
Tell me who you are.
I stand by my opinion. The world would be a better place if you took a razor blade to your wrist.
Stop.
I can see it now. Candlelight, the Indigo Girls playing, picture of your dead girlfriend on your bloody lap.
Stop it.
Oh, baby, you left such a big hole. It hurts so bad. You don't know hurt. This last year is going to seem like cake after what I put you and your friends through. And I am not a fan of easy death. Fact is, the whole good versus evil balancing the scales thing, I'm over it. I'm done with the mortal coil. But believe me, I'm going for a big finish.
From beneath you, it devours.
Oh, not it. Me.
And I want to tell you all that I 100% wanted Summer Bishil to read Cassie's part, like, since I decided I was doing separate readings, because I knew she would kill it, and she did. Yeah. But this moment, I can remember, like, we're getting, like, hit after hit of, like, reveal and reveal and reveal, and, like, this is... I remember how I felt watching this being like, fuck, because like you said, Kiersten, Willow catches on. Like, she... And it almost goes back to what you said, Michael, that if it had been Tara, Willow would have been like, Tara doesn't say that. Like, faster than if it's like a vessel talking for Tara. And like the way Azura Sky delivers like I'm done with the whole mortal coil, like, and Willow says from beneath you it devours, and she's like, not it, me is just
Ooh,
like it gave me the chills every time I watch that part always gives me the chills.
So I don't remember watching this episode for the very first time. Do you guys remember watching it, and do you remember predicting the first or predicting any of this? Like, what were the big surprises for y'all?
I think I do remember reading that it was going to be the first. Like, I feel like I remember reading on posting boards that like that was the villain from Lessons, and like just putting together the pieces. We hadn't really seen like a shapeshifter type whatever, and I kind of did assume it was the first, especially because I can't remember if it was right before the season aired or like when it was airing that, you know, Sarah Michelle Gellar did the Entertainment Weekly cover saying that she was quitting. But I remember knowing it was the last season and being like, yeah, it has to be the first. Like, but it was still like a very good, like solidifying it's the first was like, I don't know. I thought it was a really good way of solidifying that it was. Kiersten and Michael, what did you guys think?
I can't really remember. This was one of the seasons that I watched much later. I only watched while it was airing, I think through season 4. And so these seasons I watched later on. And yeah, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I knew it was like obviously not Tara. But yeah, I just remember thinking it was such a good, creepy, well done scene.
I'm going to echo what Kiersten said here. I mean, obviously this aired in 2004, and that's 17 years ago plus. I did watch the season when it aired, but like I can barely remember like, you know, what I watched last week. So I to recall whether I had an inclination. I mean, I was very, very active in like Buffy conversations and like live journal communities. Yeah. I'm sure we speculated, and I remember liking the first from its first appearance in season 3 because I love the idea of intangible villainy, and also the idea too that and we really see it on display here. So many Buffy villains, including big bads, are whimsical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you have evil in its pure distillation and its first form, it's cruel, as Kiersten pointed out earlier, like with the Joyce of it all. And I think it makes sense as the big bad for the last season. I think there's also a lot to be said of what we've just talked about earlier. There was probably more room to breathe that we needed that we didn't get to expand just how wicked this thing could actually be.
Mm-hmm.
But what a great reveal, honestly.
Yeah. I think it's wild that it's Azura Sky doing the reveal, but she does such a good job.
Yeah.
And you can feel the intensity of that moment. I don't know. But so then we get the closing moment, and I do like that we go back to the song that opened the episode. We see where all our players are at the end. We see Spike with the blood dripping out of his mouth, Dawn by herself in the living room, Buffy staking Holden, and I like that they don't even give us that fight, right? Because we already knew she was going to win. There was never a doubt that this wouldn't be a random vampire she would kill in a cemetery. It just happened to be someone she also went to high school with, right?
Yeah.
But there was never, we didn't need that final fight, so I like that they just kind of breeze by it. We show her staking him. We see Dawn in the living room. We see Willow like freaking out in the library. This episode is just so good.
Oh, here's a quick thought exercise that I meant to ask. Even though listeners who have heard me on the show before know that I notoriously am not a fan of Xander, so I was happy to have a break this time around. If you had to guess, and let's assume for fun, what dead person did Xander talk to?
Well, I'm going to cheat here and say that the rumor was he was supposed to talk to Eric Balfour's Jesse from the first episode, which I go back and forth with whether I would have liked if Xander talked to him or not, only because we just never brought him up again.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if it would have been too jarring. Kiersten, what's your answer?
I think he would have talked to the people that he got killed by summoning a dancing demon because it sounded fun. I will never let go of the fact that they were all like, "Oh, Xander, like what? You in Sunnydale, you're best friends with the Slayer, and you were like, this sounds like a kick in the pants. Let's try this." Like what? No, you know what? Actually, I think that the first did have a conversation with Xander, but it was so boring and pointless. And the first realized, like, this is a road I don't want to go down, and I don't need to go down. That he just gave up.
I did also read that they did want to bring back Halfrek to talk to Anya, but that she was unavailable, which I do know is true because Kali Roja did say that. Kali Roja did say that in our interview with her that she was in a play on Broadway, and they literally flew her out to film all of her scenes at the beginning of the season, and she filmed them all at once and then flew back to New York. Zach, who would you have wanted Xander to talk to?
Jesse.
All right. Yeah, okay. And now for a quick break. Folks, do you love movies? The good ones? Even the bad ones everyone told you not to like? It sounds like Super Yaki is the place for you. The team at Super Yaki loves movies. So much so, they've dedicated every waking moment of their life to bringing you top quality merchandise to showcase your love for them. From super soft t-shirts celebrating the 20th anniversary of the cinematic masterpiece Josie and the Pussycats, to comfy sweatshirts made for the brave members of the Movies by Yourself Club. They even have pins of some of your favorite directors, like Sofia Coppola and Jordan Peele. Super Yaki joyously brings you tangible love letters to movies and filmmakers that you can wear with pride. Plus, the team at Super Yaki screen prints all their apparel using eco-friendly, 100% water-based inks, and ships with compostable poly mailers for an environmentally friendly alternative to online shopping. And as a special gift to you, listeners can save 10% on their order with the code SUPERSlayerFest, all caps, no spaces, at checkout. If the spirit moves you, find them at superyaki.com. Let's watch more movies, y'all. And now to talk about the fashion of Conversations with Dead People, the season 7 costume designer,
Matt Van Dyne. Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
Matt. So nice to talk to you again.
Nice to talk to you, and nice to talk to everybody. Actually, yes. Yes, here we are. We're back.
We're back. So what do you got for us for the fashion of this episode?
Ironically, I don't have scripts to all of the shows, but I do have the script to this particular show.
Oh, nice.
I'm thinking maybe I should have read the script while I was watching the episode. I like to watch the episodes for all you guys because I think it'll jog my memory, in some way. And sometimes it does, and sadly, sometimes it doesn't.
That's funny. I can't remember which episode it was that you were like, oh, I don't think I have anything to say for this. And then you watched it and you were like, oh, wait, I remembered more when I watched it.
Yes. But you know what? In this episode, and it starts out, Buffy in the cemetery and the hand shooting out of the grave. Or anyway, it's at the beginning of the episode someplace. So I'm thinking, oh, yeah. I remember something about this. And I'm thinking, oh, getting a suit for that guy, what was his name? Webster? Something?
Holden.
Oh, okay. Holden Webster. So I thought, oh, yeah. And I didn't find it in my notes or in the purchases, but I think if I dug deep enough, I'd find it. But I remember going to a place called 3 Day Suit Broker. And I think that's where I got his suit because I think we needed multiples because, stunts and dirt and all of that. And so that struck me right away. I thought that, like I said, that came into my head. We had to get an affordable suit, not something that was going to be super expensive, and have it tailored to fit him. But that struck me right away. And then as I'm watching the episode, I'm looking at Sarah wearing the cross, and I'm thinking, I don't remember where that was purchased, but I do recall that I think that's dictated in the script. And as it turns out, it was. I think he mentions something about the, with the cross and all that,
okay.
When he's, and I then, go through my notes and sure enough, there it is in the notes, it's there. And then I do recall getting the clothing for Jonathan and Andrew, doing those were just kind of inexpensive dark clothes from the Gap, basically.
Oh.
That's where that came from, and I have a note in my my script where I wrote gloves, but I don't see it mentioned in the script. So maybe we just came up with the idea with Terry, the designer. When she and I would do the meetings together, and she probably said, "Oh, if they're going undercover or whatever, then." they should look like, like a jewel thief or something like
Right.
that,
Yeah.
And I think that's, was probably why I wrote that down in my notes. And also Christine Sutherland, who plays Joyce.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned to you before privately that when I did a convention in Paris, Christine was there. And as I recall, I said to Christine, I don't believe we've met. And I'm wondering if we actually did meet now, because I see her in this episode, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that we did actually have a face-to-face meeting. I don't know if what she did was done remotely or something like that. Perhaps it could have been.
Yeah.
But what she is wearing in the episode is dictated in the script as well. It says something. I think it says something like ethereal and translucent, and so that's what we came up with. And as far as like Sarah's, Sarah's sweater, I found that. That was something called PL Knitwear, and it came from Saks Fifth Avenue.
Nice.
And very, very attractive sweater. I think we bought a couple of those, as I recall. It was something in the neighborhood of like $270, something like that.
Oh, wow.
And, as I'm looking at price points today, I look back and I go, well, that doesn't seem so expensive. But at the time, some of these things were, that was.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like back then, that much money.
A little more expensive, yeah.
You know what? I think, and you'll probably agree with this, I think not everyone looks good in like a cable knit chunky sweater, but Sarah really looks good.
Doesn't she?
Yeah.
And what's funny, as I was looking at the shooting schedule, it was late September, and I thought, well, we must be starting to have cooler nights, because I also noticed in my notes for this episode that I was buying thermals for Sarah and James, because they were doing a lot of outdoor things. So
I always forget that it does get cold in the summer at night.
It does in California. It does get cold, and especially, on the basin side of LA, the ocean air, where we were shooting would come into the cemetery. I just laughed at that cemetery. I thought all of the notoriety that old graveyard gets, later in the century, because there are a lot of headstones in there that go way back in time. So very funny.
That's funny.
Very funny. And then John, I found her blouse. I thought, oh, well, that's cute. She thought that she's so cute.
Oh, nice.
In her multiple, because it required multiple changes because of everything that happens to her in that episode, alone in the house until Joyce shows up.
Right. Do you have to do the tears on the outfits? Was that like part of you too?
Yeah. That's our department, and working in tandem with makeup and special effects and all of that. And her blouse was it was a Joie, Joie blouse.
Oh. All right.
And I believe it came from Saks as well. She had on her favorite designer, Michelle Trachtenberg's favorite designer, Marc Jacobs.
Oh.
And they were her jeans. And the blouse was $159, and the jeans were $93.90. So,
oh, wow.
Which now for a designer jean, that doesn't sound,
no,
that expensive, but it was then. And then I have a note here. I didn't really pay attention to Sarah's feet, but I guess I bought her sneakers for $92. Nike sneakers. So that's in there as well. And then Spike, I just have that black Levi's for this episode and black Calvin Klein T-shirts. They're pretty simple.
Listen, the T-shirts you fit him in, Matt. Gay rights. Thank you.
You like, huh? Well, we should thank everybody for that, I guess. So yeah. Well, Terry, the designer too, at the time, she was very conscious of like having things flatter the body, and
Yeah.
and that's true. So we did do that.
And I mean, he had the body to be flattered, right?
Yes, he did. He absolutely did. He absolutely did. Yeah, I have notes, Spike does this, Spike does that, about, all about his body, basically, but that's in the script. A lot of it's in the script, like he'll saunter this way, or
right.
Just one other little note I had was the vampire in the graveyard, his blue dress shirt. That came from Nordstrom. See, we shopped all over. It was just...
All right. You really did.
Yeah, we really did. I mean, it'd be like, well, I want that from there. I want this from here, because, you would know the quality or the fit of certain things from certain places. And
that's fair.
Yeah. And some of the things I think, like for Allison, I think we had already had in stock for building her closet, for the season.
Okay.
So we just pulled things out of her closet, and built on.
Wait, I do have a specific question for you.
Okay,
In your script,
yes,
is it Cassie that visits her?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I know that in the original script, it was supposed to be Tara Amber Benson coming back, but she declined. Yeah.
In the original script, now see, I have the white pages. I'm going to look because I want to see. It is, yes, in the original white pages, dated September 29th, 2002. Then the pink pages are Cassie. So that means I collated the script. And so she was added October the 9th, it says.
And when did it shoot?
Well, I'm not exact. I'd have to pull those. I have that someplace, but I didn't.
That's fair.
I didn't make a note of that. It's probably close to this date, Ian, because we get, when we do the scripts like this, it's probably not too far away.
Because that's what I was thinking. Because she was a very random character to bring back.
Yes.
And I was wondering if it was like who can we bring back that is available?
Yeah.
And
it says Cassie, the girl from episode 4. The girl who died, looking quite undead at the moment, but very like herself. Still, and this was I was going to make a note about that because it says still with the alt rock look and purple bits in her hair.
Yeah.
So I, if I had saved, of course I didn't save the white pages because I thought, oh well, we're not shooting that. So
right. That's funny. That's funny that it was her.
I'd file, the new pages in. So I have pink and blue and white in this script. So it didn't change that much, but it did. But her pages are all pink. That's true. Because I'm looking later in the, wherever she shows up. So originally, it was, that's right. It would have been Tara. I think you're right. She wasn't available. Was that what the reason was?
She didn't really want Tara to be bad as the last appearance of this lesbian couple, but also that she was doing another project.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, that's interesting. I was wondering if, since you had the script, and the one question I do have with Joyce is, so like when we first see her, she's on that couch, like the way her character died. She's wearing the same outfit. Did you guys have that outfit already, or did you have to like redo that same outfit?
I'm looking at the script. It's so funny. I just turned to that page and we see that something big and dark is hunched. Oh, that's something else over Joyce, pressing her into the sofa.
But in that scene, she is wearing the outfit she died in.
She is wearing the outfit she died in. Well, we would have had that in stock, I suppose.
Okay, I didn't know if because it was 2 seasons prior, you get rid of that stuff.
No. I think that was filed away.
Okay.
Yeah, she's lying in the position where Buffy found the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we probably had it tagged. I mean, it's somebody, the previous costumers that were there, because we came in the last season. So
right.
It was probably tagged, and if it wasn't, then we just recreated it.
That's fair.
I have a feeling it was tagged. I think they were pretty good about doing that. Yeah.
Okay, I was always wondering on shows if that's like a thing, like how long they keep the outfits.
Yes. I think there were several racks of clothing there.
Yeah, okay.
And it was a huge space, so we saved quite a few things, or they saved quite a few things, and we did too. But yeah, that's kind of common to do that, especially if somebody died or something. It's kind of like, oh, this may need to come back. And I'm sure the previous costume designer was very astute about,
Right.
people coming back and forth, so.
That makes sense.
Wait. I just saw something in the script here. Willow blinks. I'm sorry to wake you. Tara is in the script somewhere, but then that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have one page that says Tara.
I was thinking that it had to have been last minute because
yeah, here it is. I have it.
That's so funny.
That must have been the one page I didn't miss. I probably mistakenly didn't take it out, but here it is. Yeah, it says Willow and Tara.
Huh, yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, because granted, I think Azura Sky does a fantastic job.
Oh, sure she does. I thought she was quite compelling, actually. Yeah.
But it just felt weird. It was like, oh, that's weird. They brought back this character who just died like 3 episodes ago.
But here it is.
That's funny.
That's funny. It is at page 22 of my script. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And I must have. Well, yeah. No, here. Oh, that's funny. I didn't take that out, but I have the pink page 22 as well. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Well, so there it is. There's proof. Yeah, there it is.
Did you even get to the point where you would start having to have dressed Amber Benson, or no, not at all?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Do you have anything else? Any other notes on Conversations with Dead People before we close out?
I think I've given you just about everything I have.
All right, cool. Matt, thanks for joining us. It's a delight, as always, to talk to you.
It's a wonderful experience talking with you, always.
See you next time.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
And all right, now we're at the end. Favorite scene, Kiersten?
Oh gosh, you'd think I'd be prepared by now. I love this episode. I think this episode is brilliant. I think every aspect of it is well done. I'm just gonna go with Buffy lying flat on her back, being psychoanalyzed by the Psych 101 vampire because, it's just delightful.
Michael?
As I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm a huge fan of the stationary library conversation because it evokes all the emotion that we need. And I think, of course, especially that we had a great dramatic reading of it in this episode too. The final conversation between Cassie and Willow, where the first reveals itself, is just like quality haunting material. So that's for me.
Zach?
I'm going to say in the library, the moment where Cassie mentions Tara talking about the singing. I think that specific scene where she's kind of calling on things Willow would know. I think that was pretty haunting there.
Yeah, same thing. Not same thing, but yeah, the Cassie and Willow mortal coil moment is my favorite moment of the episode.
I almost feel like instead of a favorite scene, it's like which conversation.
You know what? Actually, Zach, that's a good point. Yeah, what is everyone's favorite conversation? Kiersten?
You know what? I'm going to give it to Jonathan. I'm going to give his generosity of spirit and his tremendous character growth and his swan song, his Buffy swan song, because I just really like that. When he's not being defensive, he's not snapping back. He's just saying, I don't need them to care about me. I can still care about them. Way to go, Johnny.
All right. Michael, what's your favorite of the conversations?
What if I was spiking that lady because no one likes when dates go on too long? No, it's Willow and Cassie, obviously.
I don't know, because the Willow Cassie moment is really good, but I think the Buffy Holden might, overall, I like that one better. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Zach, which one is yours? Did you say which one is yours?
Willow Cassie.
Willow Cassie. All right, yeah, fair.
Did you mean conversation through line or specific moment in a conversation?
Conversation through line.
Oh, Buffy and Holden, easy.
Okay, so Kiersten changes it back. Okay.
Jonathan, you weren't good enough, Jonathan.
Yeah, get the cut, Jonathan. All right, favorite outfit, Michael?
Oh, favorite outfit. And I know you ask this every time, and I never plan ahead. I'll go with Andrew and Jonathan's Mission Impossible geesh because no one else is going to say it, and I love that they dressed for the assignment.
Kiersten?
Joyce's I'm a celestial being come back to.
All right. Zach?
There's not a lot of memorable outfits in this one, are there? I do like Buffy's outfit, her hair, with an honorable mention to Dawn's bandaged foot. We'll go with that.
Bandaged foot. Zach, actually, Buffy's graveyard look, I think that, for me, there's variations of that throughout the season, but I love Buffy in a denim jacket. I think her hair looks good. Yeah. And I don't love a chunky turtleneck, but she looks good in one. I give her that. She always looks good.
That season 7 styling, unbeatable.
It really, it is. All right, now we're going to grade the episode. I give the episode an A+. Zach, what grade do you give the episode?
A++.
Kiersten?
A+.
Michael?
A+.
Yay, look at that. We all agreed. Thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you all for listening. And if you want to follow SlayerFest98, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and other corners of the internet. If you want to support us on Patreon, that would be great. You can get access to all our SlayerFest98 bonus episodes. We're currently going through the Harley Quinn cartoon, which is really stellar. And you get access to our private Facebook group, monthly Patreon Zooms, and My Nudie Judy, which Zach and I do together, which is like our sex-positive video talk series. And the support is much appreciated. If you want to follow us on social, we are at SlayerFestX98. If you want to follow me, I am at ENX Carlos. Michael, where can everyone find you?
Just follow me on Twitter at Michael Varrati, and yeah, I'm around.
Kiersten, where can everyone find you?
I'm on Twitter at Kiersten White, on Instagram at author Kiersten White, or on the shelves of your local bookstore.
Yeah. Zach, where can everyone find you?
I always do awful with this. If you care enough, you can find me somewhere. You'll look for me.
Zach's too popular. All right. Well, thank you all so much. And I'm very excited to be back on Buffy season 7. We'll get more to you this summer. Bye.
Bye.